Good evening. Welcome back to Kevin Toll Reads. This is take 2 of my book review of Ocean Prey by John Sandford. This is take 2 because the first take I didn't think was good enough and didn't do this book justice, honestly. So this book was published in 2021. This is the 31st entry in the Lucas Davenport series. The summary of this book, or the plot of this book, is around you have an off-duty Coast Guardsman down in South Florida, seeing out fishing with his family on vacation, time off, seeing some sketchy stuff going on with the yacht, kind of superboat type thing. And next thing you know, he alerts the Coast Guard, and lo and behold, they try to intervene, and three Coast Guardsmen are killed. And so one of the senators in Florida calls Elmer Henderson and Porter Smalls, and they want to see if they could help because there's getting a lot of political and media presence down there about this whole thing, and local law enforcement's not getting anywhere. The FBI is kind of struggling, so they call Lucas in the U.S. Marshal's office and see if he can collaborate with the FBI to find out what's transpiring and why these three Coast Guardsmen are killed and what were the circumstances. In doing so, and collaborating with the FBI, Bob and Lucas start working the case. Ray is still recovering, and so as they're doing so, they're uncovering that not everything is what it seems, and that there is this kind of intricate little scheme between some East Coast Mafia guys down south in Florida and the drug cartel in Venezuela, and dropping these canisters with GPS coordinates and diving down to get them and recovering them with heroin. And so they're trying to figure out where these things are. The FBI is struggling to find out where they are, and they're letting them sit because they're wrapped in these kind of like almost like pipe bomb type things, canister things, and only the bad guys know where these canisters are, and the Coast Guard can't get to them. And so that's kind of the premise of the book. So what did I enjoy about the book? The plot and pacing are phenomenal for this book. I mean, just really, really good. It never really drug. There's a big event that happens in the book that I'll talk about in a minute. They kind of take a time lapse and jump. It doesn't miss a beat. In fact, that last part, you can call it like part 2, like is so good. Like it's just humor's back. You know, I think in the previous, if it was the previous book in the series or the book before that, I felt like the conversations were lacking. Like when Lucas went to the U.S. Marshal's office in the first book, I think it was at Golden Prey, I think it was, when he meets Bob and Ray, I think their repertoire is really, really good, and I thought it was lacking in the last book. It is so back. To give you an example, there was one drug dealer that Bob and Lucas are working and trying to pinch and thumb, and so they can get information out of him and try to track down who the kingpin of this organization type thing is. And he goes by the code name of Footlong, and they're like, it doesn't have anything to do with an appendage. He just likes to eat footlongs. Oh, that was pretty funny. And then there's one part where they're dealing with this other guy, and one of these bystander, I think it was a bystander that had his phone out, and Bob was like, "You better drop that phone before I shove it up your," and he's like, "You'll need to find my phone app to find it." I mean, just stuff like that just really, I was laughing, and I think that's where it leads in, is a good segue into my next point, is the emotions are just up and down in this book. I really like that. I was like, oh, they're back, they got this repertoire going, and it's funny, and there's these, and then one of the major characters gets killed, and it was like a total kick in the crotch. It really was. I'm not gonna lie, I got pretty emotional about that. We're 4 books in, I think, roughly into the transition of Lucas Davenport to the U.S. Marshal's office. We're meeting these side characters now that are supportive of Lucas, and one gets killed. And I applaud Sandford for doing so, because most writers won't do that, especially not this deep into the series. And he did, and it hurt, honestly. And so then in part 2, you have this kind of switch, and you bring in Virgil Flowers and you bring in Ray, and they go undercover and they try to break this thing open, which they do. It's really cool how they do it, though. I won't get into that, but I thought it was really cool. I mean, you have this death. There's circumstances, around that with the U.S. Marshals, and they got to deal with it. And then there's this pause in the investigation, this time jump, and then you kind of have these weird two couples that don't make a lot of sense, that are into drugs and looking to make an easy buck, and then lo and behold, it's undercover people, Ray and Virgil. And so it was so cool how they did that. So and you also got to see that Letty's graduating from Stanford. That was really cool to get that information. And so I definitely, that's going to be big, because Letty is going to have some of her own books. As you kind of get deeper in this is a Lucas Davenport and Virgil Flowers novel. There's a lot of crossing over of characters in Sandford, like I've said in many reviews, like Kid and Llewellyn. There's a lot of crossing over in his characters, in long-term characters, and I think that's great. I definitely need to get back to reading the rest of the Virgil Flower novels, and I'm definitely reading Sandford out of publication order, because there's too long. You have the Lucas Davenport series, the Virgil Flower series, and now you have a kind of a spin-off, and there's a couple of books in the Letty Davenport series and all this, but we'll read them all. But anyways, my point of saying is, my only dislike in this book was the killing of the one character. I'm still struggling with it, to be honest with you. And I took a step back and didn't rate this book. And I really wanted to look at, think through this book. I didn't want to make a quick, I'm done reading it. Look, let's take some notes and then let's put this review out. I wanted to take a step back and really think about it. But in terms of rating, I give this a 4.7. It's nuts to think that and you have a thriller, mystery, police procedural type genre here. It's a 4.7. It's the highest rated Lucas Davenport book I've rated. The highest one. And it's 31 books in. If that doesn't tell you anything about this author, then I don't know what else I can do to sell you on it. But there's, out the course of the last 31 books, there's been some that are okay, some not as good as others, but there's been some great ones. And this is the best one I've read. And so that's my review. I'm getting long-winded. John Sandford, Ocean Prey, book 31 in the Lucas Davenport series, 4.7 out of 5. I hope you're having a great evening, and I hope you look forward to this week. If you've read any John Sandford and you like them or didn't like them, drop me a comment. If you have any other books that are similar to this that you'd like to recommend, drop me a comment. I'm always adding to my list of, be on the lookout for type things, my BOLO kind of list for my books. So let me know. But that's it. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.